Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 16 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to make roller stamps. We are going to make our own paint pads so that we have something to get the paint onto the roller stamp. And we're going to make a line stamp, so we'll just get started here. Let's start out with the roller stamps. So this was a paper towel roll. And I've already cut some off of it, and I have made some roller stamps already. This one I just punched with our hole punch. This one I just cut a strip of fun foam and then just cut it into little squares. And then this was, when I punched the holes out, I just wrapped that around here. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's either garbage or it's a roller stamp. Because this is a paper towel roll. This is just the waste off of what I cut this with or punched these out of. So why not try it? You know, it was a little bit of glue and a little bit of my paper towel roll. So not a big deal. We're going to try that. Maybe it'll look really cool. Maybe it won't. But we'll find out when the time comes. So the way to do it is just take your paper towel roll and hold it up. This roller has a little lip, and I believe all of them kind of have a little lip right there so that when you put the paint roller on, that stops it. So we're just going to hold the edge of the paper towel roll right up to that lip, and then just use anything, marker, pen, pencil, whatever you got at hand, to push that right up to the lip, and then just use something to make a mark where the end of that roller is, so that it will be the same size as your roller here. And then, that just seems a little bit long. Did I do that wrong? No, that's right. Okay. So then just take your scissors, and now if you want to measure that, how long is that, and measure it all the way around and put a line all the way around, I just go ahead and I just take my scissors and cut straight across at that line. It may not be perfectly straight, but that's okay. Now, the first ones I made, and when I made them years ago, I stuffed them with something because the paper towel roll is too big to fit on there. So this one, originally I had put some stuff around here to make it fit. This time I thought, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take the extra part of my paper towel roll and cut it and put it inside there. I had to do that twice to get enough to make it fit nice and tight, which it does. It works. But then I got to thinking when I cut one of them, and it was like, well, why not just do that? So for this one, I just cut a straight line on my paper roll. Okay, and then I'm going to put it on here. Put it right on there tight, bring the other side around just like that so it's nice and tight. And I can't get the lid off the pen. Okay, just put a line right there so you know, well, you can't hardly see it, but I can kind of see it. So you know where your glue needs to be. And we're just going to glue this together. You don't need a ton. It doesn't need to be squishing out all over the place. And then I put it on the top one. I put it right on the very edge to make sure, on the back side, right at the very edge, to make sure that that really gets held down, because you don't want that popping up. And also, we're going to put some masking tape on it to hold it too, so that will also help. So just do that, hold it where it's at for just a little bit. You could put a rubber band around it or something. If you're going to put a rubber band around it, do it on this end and this end, not in the middle where it could possibly kind of squish it. And just hold it till your glue kind of grabs. And you could have your tape ready ahead of time so that you don't have to try and do that while you're trying to hold it. So hold it nice and tight, make sure that it's lined up at the back here, and then just put a piece of masking tape, half on each side, and there we go. Now we're going to see how this works with that little bit of a lip in it, because I've never done it this way before. You could also cut off that other piece and just put masking tape on it so that they butt up flat. But I think that this would be much sturdier. So there we go. We're just going to take that off. And now we have our roller to decide what kind of stamp we want to do. And so I thought maybe we'll just do like a wiggly line. Let's see how much we need to go all the way around. All the way around is going to be right to there. So I'm going to cut this right there. And then I think I'm going to cut it over just a little bit too. So, oh, I got something sticky on my scissors. I will need to clean that off. Something you can clean that off with that we probably all have right now, or still have from whenever. Hand sanitizer has rubbing alcohol in it. And that normally will help get the sticky. I'm not sure exactly what I even got on here to make it sticky. Now, whenever you're doing anything like this with your scissors, be very, very careful not to cut yourself. I really want that sticky off of here because I don't want it sticking to my fun foam every single time I cut. But that is really sharp, and I can't tell you how many times I have run my hand down my scissors just to wipe them off or something and sliced my hand. So you really, really need to be careful. And I'm just kind of getting that rubbing alcohol on there, and then I'm going to use a paper towel to wipe it off. But you also need to be careful because I have cut myself before using a paper towel and running my hand down that blade because they're sharper than you think. So just be very careful. We'll see if this works for us. Come in and get this side. This is kind of like more the top of the blade, so really need to be careful. And I can feel something sticky right there. I'm not sure what else you can use to clean your scissors, and these are Dollar Tree scissors, and they cost us $1. So if something happens to them, you know, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You don't want anything to happen to any of your stuff, but you know, if you have really expensive scissors, especially if they have some kind of certain coating, you might want to find out if there's some such thing as a scissor cleaner. But I've always cleaned my scissors with rubbing alcohol, which is isopropyl alcohol, whatever they call it nowadays, which is what mostly is in your hand sanitizer. And so I have one right here, and so that's what I decided to use. Again, I'm keeping my hands very flat and away from that blade. Okay. I think that's better. Now, we had figured that this was the length to go around. There we go. So pretty much. And so I'm going to just do a wavy edge. And then I can decide, do I want to keep this straight edge and put it along the edge here? That's going to make a very straight line as we roll it. And I don't think I do this time. A lot of times I might do that. Take each side, put one there and put one there, and then that really gives you like a very straight line. But I want it a little bit more free form. I'm not going to put these on there perfectly straight. So I am just going to, and I'm not even making sure that they're exactly, that I'm doing it exactly the same way. Just doing it. Because if I wind up going the wrong way and like coming out where I should have went in, that'll just make it like there will be a bump there. Like it'll go this way instead of both of them, you know, being like that. And that doesn't hurt a thing. But, you know, I kind of like the more organic look of things where it's not perfect. And part of the reason is, this is going to sound very silly, but I've always been a perfectionist. And when you're a perfectionist and you are not going for the organic look and you want it to be all kind of the same, it's really hard to make it kind of the same. It has to be perfect. And that really can interfere in your creating. So I kind of just started using the organic look of, don't make things line up, don't make them perfect. And I really found that I like that a whole lot better. Anyways, and with that, no matter how you try and make it perfect, that isn't going to happen. So that, really helps you get that out of your head, that every little piece has to be exactly the same length and exactly the same width and everything else. I'm going to kind of cut this one off a little bit because I really was getting too far over there, and we'll cut maybe just, this should be enough because we're going to spread them out. And it doesn't, if you want them to kind of line up because you cut them next to each other, you could make them all kind of line up. I'm not going to do that. I am just going to just put a line around here and put that on there. Now they don't have to line up. They don't have to meet. Now, if there's gonna be a gap there, what I'm gonna prefer to do is make the next one with the gap somewhere else. And they are going to, because we're going all the way around like this, and they're one full length, they're gonna wanna lift off. And so you'll have to just kind of push them down every so often, just to make them stick. And the glue is going to dry, so it doesn't matter how perfect the glue is. And I don't know that this will be dry by the time we're done, so we may not be able to see it today, but we'll see how all the others work. Just kind of push that one down and choose another one, and I'm going to start it in a different spot. Wrap that one around there. I'm going to start the next one a little further this way. And then the next one. And then there will just be one more to go. And so there we go. Now we have these wavy lines. And again, you can measure them to make sure they're all the same distance apart. You can, make sure that they exactly meet up at the end. You can do it however you want to, but you just go back in and just kind of give them a press down every so often. Now, if I had put all of the gaps in exactly the same spot, I could have set it like with that spot down and just put a little something inside the roll to just hold it that way. Because all of the gaps are in different areas around the tube, that's not necessarily going to, it will only help just one area. But there we go. Now, like I said, I'll just have to go in every so often and just give it a bit of a push. You can also kind of give it a little bit of a roll, and this is more for after the glue is really getting tacky and starting to dry. Give it a bit of a roll to make sure that it's making contact everywhere and to help press those together. But there we go. So there's our little wavy roller stamp. Now, set that one aside. And I want to show you This may not wind up drying up either. How to make a line stamp. Because I love line stamps, but they're expensive. And I don't like that super crisp dark line. Now you can buy like distressed line stamps where the line is not crisp. It's a little broken. Or you can make your own, which really looks good. And hopefully this one, I didn't make this very long ago either, so we'll still try it when we're done. Okay, so the way to make a line stamp, piece of cardboard, as big as you want it. I have all different sizes in my stash that I've made. Just draw some lines. You can do them straight. You can do them curvy. This one I did measure. You can measure them, not measure them, whatever. Draw a line across. Then put some glue on it. Just put some glue. It doesn't have to be a whole huge ton of glue. We're not going to wash these in the sink. And then just take a piece of, I had a piece of string with it. What did I do with it? Here it is. Then you're going to take a piece of string that's wider than your cardboard. And you're going to grab a hold of it, put it on the cardboard, pressing down on each side, and keep it nice and tight this way. And then just go in, give it a little bit of a press, and leave it alone. Now, there's all these tails, and that may be wasteful, but it's not wasteful because you need those tails to get a hold of to pull it and to make sure that you have enough so that it's not too short. So you can use those later for snippets. You can use it for anything that you want to. But once you get them glued on, do not cut them right now. Wait till it's dry and then cut them off, because if you cut them right now, it's going to loosen up your contact right there at the edge. And it's also going to, just very possibly move or loosen up your lines. So just let it dry just like this. And when it's dry, then just go in and cut off those extra pieces. And that way it will be nice and stuck down, because you want that glue all the way edge to edge. So that's how you make a line stamp. Put some of our masking tape handles on the back, and it works really great for a line stamp. And for a line stamp that big, you need a big stamp pad. So we're going to make those too. We have this drying mat. The drying mats are basically a towel with a bit of foam in the middle. So can you see that little bit of foam? And so you're just going to cut a piece of that drying mat off. You want to make sure that it's wide enough for your roller stamp to fit on. But it doesn't need to be huge, because you don't need to have a ton of extra paint on it. And so to make the drying mat, we're just going to to make our own stamp pad, we're going to cut a piece of our drying mat. And you can make them any size. This is great for a roller stamp to get a little bit more, to make sure that you can start here. Okay, let's start where this masking tape is. Okay, so we're going to start there, and then we're going to roll this, roll this, roll this, roll this, roll this, till that gets back to there. So we know that this drying mat would need to be that long in order to compensate for this to roll all the way across and get paint all the way around. I do leave them that long, and then I just kind of don't do the ends. But you can also cut them into just like rectangles and use them individually for different colors as you're working through these things. So then we're going to have a piece of our parchment. Is that long enough? Yeah, because I don't put paint right at the very end, so I'm going to fold this in half this way. I could fold it in half that way, but I really want to fold it this way. Sorry for the crinkles. There we go. Okay. Now, in order to make our own paint pad, what we're going to do, I have a little bit of water in here. Just plain old water out of my sink. So I am going to soak this pad up And then I'm going to squeeze it out really, really good. So you don't want a ton of water in there, but you don't want it to be perfectly dry because you want the paint to be a little tiny bit watered down. You also want the paint will soak into something wet easier than it will soak into something dry. At least that's my opinion. Now we're going to keep this water because this is going to need to be washed, and it's going to be washed in there. You don't want to pour, especially a lot of acrylic paint, down your sink. Acrylic paint is plastic. If it gets down in there and gets dry, it will clog your sink. So wash it in there. If the color of the water turns out pretty, take some of your regular paper, stick it in there, take it out, and dye yourself some paper. I do that a lot. Alrighty, so now we have a barely damp sponge on a piece of parchment. I'm even going to put this other piece of parchment on there. Okay, so there we go. Now how do we make our paint pad? We just put some paint on it. You can do one color, you can do lots of colors, you can do it however you would like doing it. I think that I will... I have just an old Beltone gift certificate card. They'll give me $850 off if I buy some hearing aids from them for probably like $4,000 or $5,000. Okay, so spread it around. And I don't know why I was just pushing so hard to push it down into the mat. You don't necessarily want to do that. But sometimes you have to remember how you did these things the first time too. Because sometimes I forget from one time to the next. It's a nice thing about videos though. If you have a video that you really like, if you just like save it or whatever, then you can always go back and find it later. Or just remember who it's by. Go to their channel by clicking on their icon. And it will take you to their channel. And then once you're on their channel, you can put in the search bar whatever it is you're looking for, flowers or whatever, and that will come up for what's on their channel. So there we go. So now we have some paint on this pad. Got it all spread out. And so we're going to get some paper. And see how it works. Fingers crossed it works good. Alrighty, so we're just going to take this one, which was made with the hole punches. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to switch sides. There we go. And then I'm just going to roll it across here. Kind of looking at my circles because I can see the white of the edge of the circles and I'm thinking there's not paint on them. But when I look at the flat part of the circle, there's plenty of paint on there. So then we're just going to take that and roll it across there. And I'm going to do it again because I really like it. So I am going to do this whole paper. I like that a lot. Let's see if I can fill in that spot right there. So that turned out awesome. Look how long it took. Not long at all. Now that we've got this made. Now, obviously we're not putting these in water. When we're done, you can either take a piece of this that just has water on it and roll it back and forth. Not a lot of water, again, squished way out. This is cardboard. This glue is water soluble. So you don't want to get this super wet, but you just want to, and you can even just take it and just keep rolling it on have a piece of roll-off paper so that whatever you're using, you can just roll it off. You know, once it's not letting any paint come off anymore, that the surface is dry or you know, there's no more paint on it. On the part that you are going to use next time. Paint on the cardboard's not going to hurt a thing. So that's how that one turned out. Set our roll-off paper aside. And let's try this one that's kind of different and see if it looks cool or if it does not look cool. But these are really, really fun. You know, it's just a matter of, ooh, I think I like that too. Hold on a second, let me just do the whole page. And with the width of this ruler, or this roller, about 3 swipes will fill a whole page. What do you think of that? Hopefully you can see it better than it looks in my camera here. I think that's pretty cool. So then let's take our roll-off one. And these work good sometimes for snippets or just background paper, something where you're not going to really see a lot of it. Your background papers work really good for that. All right, so let's look at, let's see how we're doing here. Need to press these down. Okay, now this one lit up already. Normally I do things like this, like I do quite a few of them at one time. So this would be setting aside and I'd be gluing another one. But because I was still working on gluing them, that would remind me to just go over and give it a press, you know, instead of forgetting that it's sitting over there and letting it release. But you saw how that stuck up because I did not press it down and the glue underneath of it dried. So I'm going to just go through and press down each of these. And really, we should not be trying this right now, but because we did this on camera, I think we're going to try it and see how it works. And hopefully we don't ruin it. But if I ruin it, you know what? Just make another one. Or just glue it back down. I mean, that's the only thing that could happen is it could let up. Yeah, puppy thinks she hears something. They really want me to take them outside. They've been sitting here for a little bit waiting. And there we go. That looks, this reminds me of like wood bark. The bark of a tree. That would be cool in brown. And if I feel like this side of the paper, the roll-off paper is too full, and I kind of like it, want to keep it or whatever, I can just turn it over and use the other side. So I think, oh, we'll do the squares really quick too. So the thing is that you can do this with any shape you want. You can put any colors on here. You can put more than one color on here. I do that a lot when I'm doing my line stamps. If I'm stamping a whole bunch of tags or a whole bunch of cards or something all at one time with a line stamp, you know, they're bigger, I'll do like a line of blue and a line of brown and a line of blue and just spread them out like this, but spread them this way. And then when I put my line stamp on it and stamp it on here, it's blue, brown, blue. And I like the way that that looks. But when you're rolling, if you're doing 3 colors, you know, they might just really get muddied together. And this is our little squares. So I think that these are just really fun to play with. And like I said, you know, and you don't have to have that. You know, I said measure it from, like, I started here and make sure that it will roll all the way around. You don't really have to do that. You could do a smaller area and just do this in that smaller area. It actually would not use as much paint. And so, you know, therefore, that might be, you know, a much better idea to do something like that versus as much paint as I put on this one. And this is sliding off, so that is really showing up on my paper, but I kind of like the way that that is picking up the paint and showing up. If that's picking up your paint and you don't like it, you can just, before you roll your roller, just go ahead and just wipe that off so that it doesn't show. Just have a little paper towel or something there to wipe it off with. But they're just very fun to play with. I like that. I like the pattern that made. It's got a little diamond right here in the middle. I really like the way it looks. I don't know, I can't see it on my camera, but I hope you can, because it's really quite cool. So that is how you make your own roller stamps. This is just such a simple one to do, and it is a real fun one to do. And it works great if you're doing whatever you're doing. And mass making anything works great for. Now, the acrylic paint that got on the cardboard, don't worry about it, and it's actually a good thing, because remember I said acrylic paint is plastic? Well, the more acrylic paint that winds up on there, the sturdier these get. You'd think just the opposite, but now if it gets super built up thick, then it may wind up getting on your paper or whatever, but it's not really going to do that. So it's okay. Don't worry about whenever you're making something of your own with cardboard or paper, like if you're making a paper stencil and you use it with acrylic paint, just let it dry, because the next time you use it, it will be more sturdy. So there are those three, and even this one that we made ourselves, which did dry pretty fast. And I really like the way that looks like this. I think that really looks like birch bark, or tree bark. And then we'll see about, this really isn't dry enough either, but we're going to just do it just because if I have to glue it back down later, I have to glue it back down later, but okay. But I do need to cut those strings off so that they're not in my way. So I'll just cut them on top of this piece of paper. There must be a lot of static electricity in my room, because my fun foam keeps getting a lot of static cling. Like I said, you really should wait till it dries to do that, but in order to just at least give you a gist of what this is going to look like, so you'll know if you want to try it or not. So I'm just going to tap that onto my paint. Give it a look and see if it looks like, oh, I don't hardly have any on there, so. I was tapping super light because I didn't really want it to get up into my glue. That looks better. I'm just kind of go this way too. And just put it right on there. Very crooked. Give it a massage. Not press hard. Just a very light rub. And there we go. And that is what they look like normally. That's not because it's wet or anything like that. I like this bit of broken line. There is actually line there. It's not completely missing, but it's very, very light. They have a little texture to them from the wrap of the string, and this is my very favorite line stamp. And like I said, I have wider ones that will fit a whole half page. I have skinny ones that will fit skinny tags. This will fit a journaling card. So, just make them whatever size you want to. I have even some really small ones to put on the back of little tags, but I just love the way that this looks. And it also it works good for just backgrounds too. So it doesn't have to be just for journaling or anything like that. It works good for mixed media. Mixed media, one of these in a shape like a heart or a circle or something like that, stamped in the middle of a page, and then mixed media all the way around, and some of your own writing in the center is really awesome. That's a really fun thing to do. So we're just going to take this now. And there's a lot more paint in here, so I could get a lot more papers. But we're just going to take this And we are just going to squish it and squish it until we get the paint out. Because you just don't want to wash this down your sink. Now, I'm going to use this to dye orange paper. If you don't want to dye paper, you don't have to. But if you don't have, and it doesn't even have to be, this is actually more water than I really needed. Oops, I just squirted it all over the table. So if you don't want to make, and see, I have way too much paint in there to start with. First off, I was like massaging it all the way down in. You don't need to do that. And if you do that, it will still come out on your roller. So you don't have to put as much paint on there as I put on there. I really overdid it. But once you get it really pretty well rinsed like this, then I do use soap to kind of break it down a bit and wash it under the sink. But I make sure that it's just barely nothing left before I do that. And then with this water, you can just take your regular paper. Let's do this one. Take your paper, put it in there. Let it sit for however long you want it to. And then just take it out. And you have colored paper. Because it was our wipe-off one, this side has texture to it. And you can even do this with the other ones that you've done. Hold on. Excuse me. I'm going to open up my parchment paper over here that we were just using. There's 2 of them, and I'm going to do 2 layers because it's sitting right on my table. I'm going to just let that drip off a little bit. You can also like run it up the edge of the edge of your thing, and that helps pull just a little bit of that water off of there. I'm going to just set it on my parchment paper like that and set it over there. So, but you can even do it with the ones that you just stamped on. And give it a shake. And now instead of white paper with orange, you've got the same tone orange paper with the stamping on top. Now, depending on how wet that is, you know, it may make those spread a little bit. And if you stack them on top of each other, I don't know what it'll do. This is actually the first time that I have ever colored the paper that I already stamped. I just never thought of it before. But the paper's nice and flat to stamp on, and then coloring it afterwards, that way it's not crunchy paper, which I like crunchy paper, but it's harder to stamp on. So I'm going to just set that right on top of the other one and see how it goes. And I'm going to do this line stamp too. And if you don't have a whole ton of room, you can do a few, set them aside. If you have a hair dryer, you can dry them with your hair dryer. You know, people have the heat guns. You need a heat gun to melt embossing powder. If you want to melt embossing powder, you have to have a heat gun. Other than that, I personally find that a hair dryer works better in drying things than the heat gun does. The heat gun just gets so hot, and it gets so hot and you're trying to maybe like move something out of the way, or if it's string, you're trying to like move it around. Maybe you want to hold it in your hand so it can get dry. And that heat gun gets really hot. It literally can burn you, like real burns. So, you know, don't think that just because everybody has a heat gun, you have to have one. If you're not going to use embossing powder, you really don't have to have one. I figured that out after I bought one. So, oh, and I wanted to show you last week's, when we dyed the string with the Easter color, and I wasn't sure, I thought it would dye more solid, where it was in the air, it got darker. It's like the color kind of soaked towards the outside. So this wound up not being all one color either. it wound up to be, it's going to be a variegated color, but it still turned out really pretty. I like that color. So I wanted to show you that from last week. And if I remember, I will show you the ones I just dyed from this week to when they're dry next week. I'll try and remember to show you those also. So I am actually going to just go through and dye some paper. That's what I do when I have colored water left, especially if I like the color of the water. And I do have to say that right this second for our series, the yellows that I dyed did not turn out the best. So this is going to give me a really nice yellow orangish color to put in our stash for someday when I really want a colored piece of paper. And I prefer, a lot of times I prefer a colored paper over white background. White background really just, even with this, I think this looks cool. I think all of them turned out very cool, but I really like the way they look over there when they're yellow. Now hopefully this is not going to wash that paint off or really make it kind of run into itself, or, you know, just kind of spread out where you can't see it, because I'm stacking them on top of each other. And I don't mean in the water, I mean over to the side. I'm just stacking them on top of each other because that's all I have room for right this second. But then I can take my blow dryer, dry the top piece, and, you know, kind of flip it over and dry it a bit. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry, and kind of set it aside. It's going to be crinkly, or wavy, or whatever you, however you want to call that. And then just do the next one and the next one. And then just set them all on top of each other, set them aside, and let them dry. And once they're kind of dry, then I might set them out all around my art table, because they're not real super wet. And once they're pretty dry, usually they don't release the color either. This is going to, wherever it drips, it's going to drip orange paint water, which is going to leave a mark. But isn't that looks pretty awesome. And we'll see how it looks when it dries. It might be super close to the same color where it's not very noticeable. Oh, and I was saying with your water, if you live in the country and you don't mind, you can just toss it outside. I did have somebody make a comment that I should not do that, that I'm contaminating nature, but I live in the country, so I have a septic tank, and they said I was contaminating the groundwater. Well, we have a septic tank, so whatever water goes into my drain goes into that septic tank and goes out into the ground. So, you know, I mean, I can either put it out there by dumping it down the sink and having some of it get stuck so that I have to call the plumber, or I can just put it out there myself. And if you don't want to do that, clumping kitty litter works really good. This amount of water, I might just put some kind of just junk papers in there, like newspapers or something, and until it soaks it all up, and throw it in the garbage, because it's a lot of water. But especially with your painty water from your paintbrushes, if you dump that into some clumping kitty litter, I have kind of a medium-sized bowl, and I just dump it in there, and then once it clumps up, I just take it out and throw it in the garbage. So, sorry, I couldn't think of what I was going to say. So there we go. We have some painty papers. We have some stamped papers. And we have all of our little rollers here. I'm missing one. What am I? Oh, I'm missing the circles. There we go. So this is really a fun thing to play with. I hope if you play around with it that you have a good time. For next week, we are going to need a comb. You want a comb that's got some pretty solid teeth on it, and not the kind that are super close together. You want one of these kind of like wide tooth combs, or whatever they call them, where there's a little bit of space between them. So you want we want a comb. And if it's those pick kind of combs, you know, they have the handle on the bottom and they kind of come up like this. They have spaces between them. That works too. You just want one that has spaces, not the kind that where they're just right next to each other, really close. You want a decent sized gap. And I like this one just because of the way that we can hold it. And then sandpaper. We did get a sanding block. If you got, I told you you could get a sanding block or sandpaper. If you got sandpaper at that time, then you don't need to get it, but I couldn't get sandpaper at that time, so I wound up with a sanding block. But, so sandpaper and a little hand hacksaw. All of these came from the Dollar Tree, so that was $3.75. We had $30.25 in our bank, so our new balance is $34 even. So we have $34 to spend now, and I am going to start shopping. And I think that the first thing that we are going to buy is going to be a guillotine cutter. So I am going to shop around for one. More than likely it's going to come off online, because the last time I went to Walmart, they only had like the roller cutters, and I like a guillotine. You get what you want. You don't need to get what I get. And when I do get it, I will show you what I got, let you know how much I paid for it. And, you know, just so that you'll know what I got and you can see how it works. Because after I get it, we can sample it. But if you don't like a guillotine cutter, a lot of people that have little kids, which actually is the one thing that always used to scare me too, which is why I never wanted one, when my kids were little, was because, like, ooh, they could chop off their fingers. You know, I mean, it's a guillotine cutter. They're sharp, and it's a nice big blade. But, you know, so a roller cutter might be better. No matter what kind of cutter you get, you got to keep them out of the way. So, but anyways, this is what we need for next week. And this is what we played with today. We came out also with some really pretty papers. And we're going to play around again next week. Thank you very much for stopping by. If you don't mind, watch a commercial here and there. It does help. Thumbs up or comments also help. I love to hear your comments. And if you have any questions on something that you think, like if you thought, oh, hey, I want to get some roller stamps, and you went and you priced them out and went, wow, you know, I don't know that I want to get some roller stamps, because I can afford one roller and I can afford one stamp, and I don't know how long it's going to be before I can afford any more. So if there's something that you want or something you want to try without going and spending the big expense, please just let me know. Just put it in the comments below, and I will do my best to show you what you can do on your own without having to buy from the craft store or online, and yours will be unique for you. And so that's really an awesome thing too. So I love when I do something that most of what's in it is my own designs. And, you know, is that a design? Not necessarily, really, but boy, does it look nice on the paper. So, you know, it is pretty cool to do your own things and be proud of what you've done when you've got so much there that's your own. Thanks again for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.